Welcome to Sensible Health Solutions, the show where we simplify health and wellness. Join your hosts, Hallie Fields and Dr. Scott Luper, as they share practical tips and expert insight to help you navigate common ailments, nutrition, and overall well-being. Tune in for straightforward advice that empowers you to live a healthier life.
Hello, Dr. Luper. How are you?
Hello, Haley. I'm doing great.
Good. Well, in continuing our series on fatigue, I wanted to discuss something that I think is often overlooked with a lot of our patients, and that is adrenal and how that might be affecting our patients' energy levels and their overall fatigue. So can we start with exactly what the adrenals are and what they're responsible for?
Yeah, certainly. So look, the thing about, I'm glad you brought this up, because adrenal gland problems are a common cause of fatigue, and they're often overlooked. And the reason why they're overlooked is because the testing for adrenals is not very accurate. It's not very easy. It's really a problem to be able to do this kind of testing. And so most doctors just don't do it, and it doesn't really come up very much on a differential diagnosis. So the fact of the matter, though, is that there are ways you can get at this, and we'll talk about this later on in the show. But let me answer your question first. The question is, what's the adrenal gland? Mm-hmm. The adrenal gland, and there's two of them, they're little triangular-shaped glands that sit on top of your kidneys. And what they are is the glands that give you your get up and go. They're the glands that produce the hormones and neurotransmitters that allow us to rise to the occasion. If there's some sort of challenge that takes place, your body can feel it. You think, woo, this is important. I got to do a good job right here. Boom, stress chemicals come up. Mm-hmm. Okay? Kind of like when you do a show like this.
Yeah, when you're presenting in front of crowds or
right.
preparing a paper.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or, we live in Alaska, so when you hear that crunch behind you and you're walking in the woods, you look and it's a bear.
Or
then
a moose.
The adrenals,
yeah.
or a moose, they crank hard. So the problem is with people is they don't make enough adrenal stuff to be able to meet their body's basic needs.
And adrenal stuff, for clarification, is stress hormones.
Yeah, those are stress hormones.
Okay.
There are two general categories. One's catecholamines, which are alertness chemicals. Dopamine's the classic one. And the other is cortisol. Cortisol increases your blood sugars and changes the way your body works and equips it for action. Mm-hmm. Do you want me to be more specific?
No, I think that's good. So when people don't produce enough of the catecholamines or the cortisol, how does it present itself? How do you, as a doctor, kind of determine that is insufficient in some way?
Well, first of all, they're tired.
Okay.
And particularly if they've been going through a lot of stress. They're students, or they have a job that they're overworked, or they have too much responsibility, and they were just kind of feeling burned out from all of that. That's clue number one. Here in the office, we have a kind of a rough and ready way to be able to identify these people, and it actually works pretty good. And that is, we take their blood pressure, mm-hmm. both sitting and standing. Now, blood pressure should go up when you go from sitting to standing.
Right, because the body needs to move the blood throughout the entire body.
Yeah, because
it's working harder.
If you stand up, your blood tends to fall down.
Sure.
I mean, it's liquid, right?
Yeah.
And your veins and arteries are relatively elastic, so it just falls down into your ankles. Mm-hmm. It leaves your head. Mm-hmm. This is not good for your head.
No, so your body wants to get the blood back to the brain, the control center, so it works harder, and it increases by about 10 points?
Yeah, so the adrenals are the glands responsible to keep your blood in your head. And how they do that is they release hormones that cause your blood vessels to constrict, forcing the blood to go up into your head where it's supposed to be. Mm-hmm. And so we can measure this. People who are normal and healthy, and there's nothing wrong, when they go from sitting to standing with their blood pressure cuff on, you take it sitting and then you take it again standing, their blood pressure should go up 10 points.
Sure.
Now, if your adrenal system's not working well, it may not go up at all. In fact, if it's really not working well, it'll actually drop when you stand up. those people almost always know it because they'll show up and they say, you know, I have a hard time when I stand up, I get relaxed and then I stand up and then I get dizzy, I get lightheaded.
Okay.
So some of our listeners may be those people right now. If you think, oh, that's me, this is the show for you because we're going to be talking about your problem. Okay, that's one way it shows up. Now, adrenal dysfunction is not the only reason that can show up. You can also be dehydrated.
Okay.
That could do it as well. But I see more people with adrenal dysfunction than I do see people with dehydration.
So then what causes adrenal dysfunction? What causes the adrenal to quit producing the hormones that the body needs?
Okay, so there's two things that'll do this. One is that the adrenal glands are actually broken. That's rare. I almost never see it. The other one is the adrenal glands are tired. They've been, overused. That is as common as the dirt. We see that all the time.
Because they're overstimulated, they're overstressed, they're overworking, all the above.
Modern life being what it is.
Yeah.
People, get gut punches all the time. You get this email and then, you can feel it. Or a weird conversation with somebody, you can feel it, right? It's not necessarily moose and bears in the woods that are getting us anymore. It's just the normal stuff in life, responsibilities, and you get that feeling like there's danger. Really,
right.
It's people. The word we don't use danger as a word. We call it anxiety.
Okay.
So how much anxiety is going on is how much adrenal dysfunction is going on. So lots of
That's a
anxiety,
lot.
worry, apprehension, dread. All of these are flavors of the same thing, which is basically fear. Elements of fear here. Different ways of describing fear and intensities of fear. And when you get fear and fear and fear and fear as you go through your life, as you go through your day even, it drains your adrenal glands. Now everybody can handle, not everybody, but people who are healthy can handle some sort of stress coming along. In fact, stress turns out to be good. It keeps us sharp, it keeps us engaged, it keeps us alert. Stress is really helpful, except for if you get it all the time, repeatedly, and too much for your body to keep up with. The adrenal glands, they're not that big, they're kind of small.
Yeah.
And they can't make an infinite amount of stress hormones. They can, once they're on full, that's as much as they can make. And they literally can't keep up. That's what I see people come in with, that they're just basically burned out from all the stress.
So would you say that we have more stress than in caveman days when we were fighting and foraging and scouting for our resources and places to live?
Well, having not been there in caveman days, I can't say. But I can say when you look at other societies, societies that, live closer to the land, that are outside and they have a slower pace to life, even though there's the occasional somebody whacks you on the head with a stick kind of thing. But those societies, when we look at the amount of stress that they have and their health generally, it tends to be better than in our societies. Now, they didn't live as long because, accidents and those kinds of things. But in terms of heart disease and stomach problems and high blood pressure and all these things that are associated with adrenal dysfunction, they had less of that. So my guess is yes.
So let's go into some of the side effects that people experience if their adrenals aren't functioning properly. What would those be?
Tiredness.
You mentioned stomach pains.
They can be, yeah. If the adrenals are really running low, you get stomach pains. That's another thing that shows up. Your digestive system gets messed up.
Digestive system, so then diarrhea or constipation, could that be associated?
Yep. Heartburn's another one. Let me explain how this works. So the adrenal glands, what they do is they get us ready for action. So they release our hormones, and then we feel these changes in our body. We get more alert, we get more kind of, nervous. Our blood pressure goes up, our pulse goes up.
We're on edge, we're ready for action.
Yeah, so blood is actually taken from our digestive system and then pushed to other parts of our body, pushed to our muscles, pushed to our brain, pushed to our heart, so that we're ready to get up and fight or run or do whatever we need to do. So your digestive system gets basically put on the back burner, and it just idles. And this is normal, and this is fine. This is the way things should work. But if you do this every day, if you do this repeatedly every day, then your digestive system isn't going to get the amount of blood that it needs to be able to do its job well. And so what you're going to get is less digestion. You're going to get partially digested food. That means there's going to be leftovers.
Yeah.
Those leftovers make it down to your lower intestine, and it's food that the organisms down there can use for their benefit. Basically, manna from heaven is falling down upon them.
Yeah.
And they'll party.
Yeah.
They multiply. They have a great time. They make lots of bubbles.
Bad bugs, feeding bad bugs.
Right. And all kinds of nastiness is taking place there. And so people with chronic adrenal insufficiency almost always have some sort of digestive problem.
You mentioned that the blood pressure will decrease by 10 points. Is there any other temperature difference in low adrenal efficiency?
So 10 points is not a magic number. They should go up by 10 points.
Right.
So they could go down by any amount of points. In reality, when I see people do this, and by the way, y'all can do this at home. All you need is a blood pressure cuff. You just sit for a minute, put the cuff on, wait for a minute, settle, then hit the little button, you let it run through its cycle, give you a number, write it down, then stand up, hit the button, go through your cycle again, and just notice the difference between the first two numbers. The systolic number, there's a systolic and a diastolic number. It's the systolic number we're looking at.
Okay.
So let's say, for example, you take your blood pressure and your blood pressure is 120 over 80, classic blood pressure. Then you stand up. It should go to 130 over 82 or 5 or something like that. It goes, instead of going to 130, it goes to 125. Oh, you got a little bit of a problem there, huh? It goes, let's say it stays the same. It goes from 120 to 120. You absolutely have a problem, and you're already tired.
Yeah.
Let's say you stand up and it goes from 120 to 110. Holy moly, you're falling apart.
Okay.
Right? You're having a hard time doing your life at all because you're so overwhelmed by everything.
Right.
There it is. Y'all at home can try this and see how you fit on this thing.
Now, are there any differences in temperature?
Not really. A little bit. Yeah, that's actually an excellent question, because the question is there a connection between the adrenal glands and the thyroid gland?
Yeah.
Now, so the thyroid gland sets your basic metabolic rate, and that is measured by temperature. And the fact is, yes.
Yeah.
As your adrenals start to fail, your thyroid glands,
cooler.
they're connected. It's not a super tight connection. It's not a one-to-one connection, but they're related to each other. And they're related to each other because they're all parts of your body. So all the parts of your body are going to suffer. I mean,
would they run cooler or would they run
cooler?
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, they run cooler.
Yeah.
That's what it is. You tend to run cooler.
Okay,
the temperature tends to come down.
You mentioned testing not being as easily readable or direct.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
So if you do a thyroid test, you as a doctor, you order the test, it goes to the lab.
And adrenal is a part of the thyroid test?
I meant thyroid. If I said adrenal, I used the wrong word.
Okay.
Thank you for correcting me. Thyroid test. If you run a thyroid test, and then it comes back and you have thyroid numbers. If you run an adrenal test, it comes back, you can't make any sense of the numbers. And the reason why is this. Your thyroid produces hormone on a fairly regular basis to set your basic metabolic rate, so you can check it. Adrenals only produce on demand.
Oh, okay.
So the only way their numbers are going to go up is if you demand them.
So is there a test in which somebody could be incited for a stressful situation?
You can inject people with medications that will force the adrenals to produce. There is a test like that.
Okay.
It's not super helpful, not in real life. You can also just run cortisol, for example, and just check that. Except for if somebody came with a needle and got ready to poke me with a needle, like my cortisol levels would go up, and so they're artificially elevated.
Okay.
And doesn't really reflect the reality, because at that one moment, everything's working. And it's not a matter of whether you can make cortisol or not. It's a matter of whether you make enough for your life to work right. And so the test really isn't that good. It's not that helpful. It may show you have adequate cortisol levels, but in fact you don't. In reality, you're not making enough cortisol. And that's how we see it. So the better test to do is to get also cortisol levels, one thing I forgot to mention is the cortisol levels normally are higher in the morning, lower as the day goes on. By nighttime, they're flat zero. There shouldn't be any whatsoever.
Should.
Because if there's any cortisol in your system, you're going to have a hard time falling asleep, because it's all about alertness.
Right.
So that's the way the system should work. Also, in the morning, how your body wakes you up is by having the cortisol levels come up. We talked about this a little bit when we talked about sleep disorders. People Some people spike cortisol in the middle of the night, and they wake up in the middle of the night and they can't fall back asleep. So there's a little bit of wobbliness in the system. Anyways, the best way to check this is to do a test that measures your cortisol levels in an average way. So you can check spit, because saliva is made from your blood, and it takes about a half an hour to make some saliva, enough for you to spit in a little tube. So you get the average cortisol production over the last 30 minutes when you spit in the little tube.
Okay.
That's better than getting it for the last 10 seconds when somebody stuck a needle in you.
Yeah.
It's not accurate, remember?
Right. Spitting in a tube is a lot less intimidating than being drawn.
That's right. So there's less likelihood for it to be artificially elevated.
Yeah.
So that's one way to do it. Another way is you can actually test your urine.
Okay.
If you can empty your bladder and then let some urine accumulate over the next 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then check that, you'll get the last 10 minutes, 15 minutes, half hour worth of urine production. And urine is also made from blood. It's basically filtered blood is what it is. So you can get a sense of what your hormone levels are by either doing a saliva test or by doing urine testing. And then you check periodically over the day. You check in the morning, you check in the middle of the day, you check later, you check at night, and you get a graph. The graph should go up and then down. There's a hump, the normal graph. That's what we're looking for when we do the test. So there's some labs that do these things. I won't necessarily name the labs necessarily, because I'm not really trying to promote any particular lab. Just say the tests exist, and you can nail down whether somebody has this problem or not by doing the test. If you suspect that they have the problem based on their symptoms, based on their blood pressure, and then you can confirm it doing either one of the saliva tests or the urine test.
Wonderful. So what supplements or medications, herbs, or lifestyle changes can somebody then implement?
So another good question. So this answer is the same as we give nearly every time we talk about this kind of stuff, which is there's 2 tiers of treatment. Tier 1 is what we want the body to be repaired and be able to run it on itself. So we assume that the body's capable of functioning, it just needs encouragement. So we could encourage and heal and support and feed and fluff and whatever, take care of the adrenal glands. Give them building blocks and do that kind of thing, right? Now, sometimes the factory, it's just like running out of bricks, it's actually broken, right? So sometimes the adrenal glands actually fail. They just literally cannot produce the stuff that they should be producing. In those cases, you need to supply the body with the stuff that would have come out of the adrenal glands. That's rare.
And that's hormone supplements.
That's hormones. That's cortisol, mostly is what it is.
Okay.
So those people have a disease, what's known as Addison's disease, and they simply don't make cortisol. And it ultimately is a fatal disease. So it needs to be replaced. The cortisol that would have been made by the adrenal glands, you have to take in pill form. And it works. People feel pretty good. It's not ideal because your body really wants to be able to regulate the cortisol from moment to moment as need be. And if you take it in pill form, you're not doing that, but it's better than being dead, so there's that. So it's a kind of a unpleasant, not optimal. Let me say it that way. It's not an optimal solution. The better solution is to get the whole hormone factory working well. That's plan A. And so what we do with that one is we give the adrenals the stuff they need to do their job well. They need B vitamins, B5 in particular. It's a cofactor for the production of these hormones. They need vitamin C, super important for adrenal function. And they also need a whole bunch of other stuff, which is easily given to them by having them take adrenal powder. That is adrenal glands that have been ground up in a powder form. And so the stuff that we usually use, we have several products on the shelf, do a combination of stuff. There's also herbs and kinds of things that will helpful as well. I can list the herbs off specifically if you want.
If you could, yeah.
Yeah. Glycyrrhiza is a super helpful one. Luper is another one. That's Siberian ginseng. Let me give the Latin name and the common name. Glycyrrhiza is licorice root. The Luper is Siberian ginseng. Rhodiola tends to be helpful as well. I don't know what rhodiola's common name is. I only know it as rhodiola.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
So anyways, these herbs are particularly helpful. There's other ones as well.
In stimulating the adrenal
Yep,
glands.
exactly. They stimulate the adrenal gland to work better. So we do a combination of the herbs, the vitamin supplement kind of thing, and then ground up adrenal gland. And by golly, the stuff works fabulous.
And
it really makes a difference.
Is there ever a resolution point, or are these supplements something that patients need to take for the rest of their life?
No, there's a resolution point.
Okay.
So really when you think about these things is they're all kind of food. And so you've been burned out by having to produce too much adrenal hormone. You can't keep up with the production. And so if you can simply enhance the production, you tend to feel better. Your energy comes up, and time takes its course, and things oftentimes will resolve a bit. The pressure will come off you a little bit, and you just kind of get used to the grind that you're living in. Maybe it's kind of a sad way to say it, but that's the world we live in. And then you do okay. So if somebody takes this stuff for 3 months, usually I can get it to where they don't have to take it anymore.
Okay.
Sometimes they have to take it for 6 months. Sometimes they have to take it forever. So it depends.
Yeah.
But most of the time, people will take it for a few months, and then they don't need it anymore. And how you can tell is when you quit taking it, you can't feel it.
Sure.
Now, when you first take the mix of these supplements, your energy comes up. And people will come back and they'll go, I cannot believe how much better I feel. This is like night and day. This is like absolutely fabulous. And then you have to be careful because their energy will come up so much that they have a hard time falling asleep at night. And so we have to go with a smaller dose or a more dose, depending on who the individual is. And I want to let them do the fine-tuning of the dose, not me.
Yeah.
Because I'm not close enough.
You can't
they could feel it.
Exactly.
They could feel it better than I can. So I teach people how to find their own dose. And then they'll take it for a while, a few months, and then I'll say, everything's great, right? So now stop taking it and see what happens. Cold turkey, just quit. And if they quit taking it and their energy drops and they're like, oh, I remember how I used to feel like this, I hate this. No, go back on.
Yeah.
Because you need it.
How long does it usually take to set into your system?
Till after you take it?
Or for you to start taking it, is it like a 3-day, 5-day, week period?
No, about 45 minutes.
Oh, great.
Yeah, it's not hard to
wonderful.
figure.
Okay, so we have a few minutes left in this episode. I wanted to touch on overproduction of adrenals and if that could be a thing.
It is in fact.
What symptoms does that look like?
So what happens if your adrenal glands are overproducing? They produce too much hormone. And so what you get is, actually a funny thing is you get tired.
Yeah.
You'd think you get all jazzed up, and maybe you do, but by the time those people make it to the doctor, they've gone into the tired zone. And so what happens is your blood sugars tend to run high, so these people often will have diabetes.
Okay.
The cortisol changes how your body looks, and what they'll get is a hump right here on the back of their neck. They'll actually get thicker, like a fat pad right there.
More fat on the brown fat on the back? Or?
It's the same spot for the brown fat, but they'll actually get this thick pad right there. Okay? The other thing is that the cortisol slows down our immune system, and our immune system is also responsible for repairing and cleaning our body, this connective tissue system. The immune system and the connective tissue system are, of the same ilk. They come from the same basic cell type, so they're closely related. And so when you shut that down, your body doesn't repair correctly, and it starts falling apart. One of the ways it shows that they fall apart is your skin gets kind of thin, and you'll start getting these purple lines in your skin where the skin's pulling apart. Now it still holds together, but you can see these striations, is what they're called, these purple striations. Kind of like stretch marks. If you like your pregnancy, you get they're like that, except for they're places where they shouldn't be, and that's you falling apart. Also, you get osteoporosis, and your bones, given enough time, will start to collapse. This is not a happy disease.
Yeah, it doesn't
Not
sound
at all.
like it's going down a happy path.
Cushing's disease is what it's called. I don't know if I mentioned that.
Okay.
Cushing's disease is what it's called. So it's not that hard to find. Cushing's disease is the exception to the testing rule I told you. Remember I said testing's not that good? But with Cushing's, the hormones are high the whole time. So you can run a straightforward blood test, and they'll just be high. And now, now you know you got the problem.
And they'll be higher than normal levels.
Yeah, if you would have been just excited about getting a blood draw, they'll be high too.
or nervous about it.
No, Cushing's is another level beyond that.
So you'd be able to identify those numbers and know right from that. And so with Cushing's disease, is it medication? Is it hormone replacement for the rest of their life?
Well,
or
you got to shut down.
is there a reduction, something?
There's a number of different treatments to it. Sometimes there's medications for it. Sometimes what you do is you find out the reason why they're getting this overstimulation. I'll give you an example. I had a patient show up who had insomnia, and I did a thorough workup on him and figured out that he had too much adrenal hormone in him. And so then I had to figure out why. And in the long story short, we figured out he had a tiny little tumor in his pituitary gland.
Oh.
And that's what did it. So I sent him down south to get it taken out. Had to argue with the surgeons to do it, but eventually they did it. And it absolutely cured his case. But it also, he had kind of a superpower of being able to stay up all night and work forever and just do go all the time. He kind of got used to it. It was killing him, yes. But it was kind of nice while it was there.
Yeah.
And then he lost that.
Oh.
Poor guy.
So then he had to readjust to normal working
life.
hours. Yeah.
Yeah, like that.
Wonderful. Well, are there any closing thoughts you might have on how to fix either low adrenal or high
I'm going to say
adrenal?
something more about this. It's super helpful for you to do things that help balance your body's stress hormones. And really, the thing to think of is those stress hormones are there to prepare you for action. Now, in the old days, caveman days, you got to stick and you solve your problems by beating it into submission. You can't do that anymore. You go to jail, so don't do that.
No.
But you still need to act. You
Yeah.
still need to take act. No one has ever got better by me saying, you should relax.
No.
It's stupid. I'm never going to say it because no one can. How do you relax? I don't know how. So what you can do, though, is when you feel that the energy flow up, when the hormones are flowing, because you feel fear and overwhelm is what you feel. And then, I need to take action. As soon as I can, I need to go on a brisk walk around the neighborhood, or I need to ride my bike up the steep hill, or I need to work out in whatever, right? You need to do some physical
You need to
action.
act.
You need to act. One of the best things you can do is lace up some boxing gloves and punch a heavy bag, and it feels fabulous. There's such power in doing that, and it relieves the stress so much. So that's what I recommend doing. You want to talk about how to deal with stress? The way to deal with stress is to take action. Everybody knows the stress kills, but it doesn't. It doesn't, really. It doesn't.
also helps you thrive. It also has enabled us to live.
Very much so. And
Yeah.
what kills is when you get the stress hormones and you do nothing.
Right.
That is deadly. But if you do something, it works its way out, and now you don't have a problem.
So in our last minute, how important is sleep and adrenal function?
Yeah, super important. Sleep is like a vital thing for everything. So you pick a part of the body. Yes, sleep is important for that.
Okay.
My earlobe needs sleep too.
Yeah, the whole system needs that rest and repair. Wonderful.
Good. I hope this is helpful.
Very helpful. Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Sensible Health Solutions. We hope you found today's discussion enlightening and packed with practical tips to enhance your wellness journey. Remember, small changes can lead to big results. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps us bring you the best content possible. Stay connected with us on social media for more health insights and updates. You can find us at Sensible Health Solutions across all social platforms. Until next time, stay sensible and stay healthy. This content is for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Seek medical advice from a healthcare professional for any medical conditions.